Think Photoshop is just for editing photos? Let me show you how I animate AI generated images and more. No After Effects needed. So I'm going to show you how to create this very cool animation, not in After Effects, but in Photoshop. Yes, Photoshop. Basically, one of the things that I use that I really like is these generative fills. And I'll explain in a minute why they can be very flexible. So in order to get the timeline in Photoshop, you want to definitely go up to Window and Timeline. And then you'll see this timeline here where you can animate. So the timeline works pretty much the same as After Effects or Premiere if you've used either of those. There's a keyframe object that you can click on, and you create keyframes for each of these options. Transform works a bit differently here than it does in After Effects and Premiere. Transform is actually both size and position on the stage. So it's kind of nice to have all of those in one. So for instance, I started off with the space background at that size, and I increased the size on the next keyframe. So I added a keyframe here and did transform by hitting Command T and grabbed the handles and made it bigger. But I also moved it on the stage to a specific position that I want it to end on. You hit enter and it automatically animates between the two, which is pretty nice. The next part that we have is the monkey. So one thing to keep in mind is that if you use a generative AI image and you remove the background, you can't animate it all in one. So if you try and animate the monkey, it will animate the image and not the mask. So the way to get around that is to create a smart object of this, and so that's what I did. So I started off with a keyframe of the monkey at this size and position on the stage, and then I went further and created another keyframe. So I created this parallax effect by having the background get bigger and the monkey get smaller, and that's how that happens, that effect. Then the last object I added was the text. Now text has other types of things that you can animate. So for instance, I started off with 0 opacity. I changed the style, and the style is anything that's under effects. And you can actually animate effects by clicking on the style keyframe. And the other cool thing you can do is a text warp. So I'm going to show you how I did this. You can actually animate this by going up to type and going to warp text. Now there's a bunch of presets in here and you can modify these as you want. And the cool thing is, if you go to the other keyframe, like this one, and you go up to warp text, you hit none under here. And then what happens is it goes from none to warped, or warped to none. And that's what I did for this last keyframe, and I also added a gradient overlay under effects. So that's why I hit the style keyframe. So that was a pretty cool way to do the text. And I like that there's all these options. The other cool things about using the generative AI images is that you can swap them out pretty easy, and you don't have to redo your animation all over again. For instance, if I wanted to change the space image, it still contains this animation of the space getting bigger, and I didn't have to reanimate just to change that. And the same thing with the monkey. If I go into the object of the monkey, it's going to remember that this is an AI image if you select it. And if you want to choose a different monkey, you can do that. Hit save and go back to your main document, and there you are. You have your other monkey, and it's retaining the animation. To export, you want to hit render video, either from this menu here or from your export and render video. And then you can choose any kind of encoders and what size you want it at and hit render. And there you go, an awesome video. Not in After Effects, but in Photoshop.